everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Wrestling Reviews Lucha Underground. This week, of course, we are going to be reviewing episode 3 in season 2, and it's been quite the road so far. My name, of course, reviewing all these shows each and every week for you, is Turbo Tony here at the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. And thank you guys for making these episodes such a huge hit on our channel. We have no plans to stop whatsoever. And we've got another exciting episode to have a look at here on Lucha Underground this week. A lot of loose threads left over from last week, and a debut here, a couple of returning stars. So there's a lot of good stuff to be watching Lucha Underground this week. First of all, just have to apologise that this review is coming out a little bit later than usual, and the reason for being that is it's just Lucha Underground's a hard show to find, especially if you're outside of the United States. From what I've heard from some of our American friends, it's a hard show to get inside the US, let alone outside of it. So this becomes a thing where trying to actually find the show, it's kind of becomes troublesome each week. But in a strange sort of way, I kind of like that, right? It kind of adds to the sort of the feel of the show that it's you really have to go far and try and find a different way of viewing the show in that aspect. You have to make the effort. You have to find Lucha Underground in order to watch it. So, but that being said, would much rather it be available to myself through easier means, but that just isn't the case. That isn't the case. So, what it might end up being, the fact is that it may end up being the Fridays that this episode starts getting released out. It depends on when I can watch the show. I mean, that's really the bottom line of it. I would like to get it done every Thursday. That was the initial thought track, but it just seems more and more as the weeks progress that that's probably not going to be the way that this works. But we'll soon find out as we go. So without further ado, just a few plugs here. If you want to interact with the podcast, you can do so via our Facebook page, the Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast, / Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast. And you can find us up on there. All that stuff will be in the description below. You can also follow us on Twitter at TalkWrestlePod. And of course, you can subscribe to what we're hoping to get as 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. However, enough procrastinating. We've got an episode of Lucha Underground to review, so let's get into it. We start off straight away with a match. Bengala versus Kobra Moon. So Kobra Moon was the woman that was shown last week. She had her own video package, and they said that she would be debuting, and this is her debut. Bengala, I think, had a few interactions last season. Yet again, is one of these sort of the bit players of Lucha Underground. Hasn't done too much. Probably the right pick, for all intensive purposes, to go against Kobra Moon, especially if they have a plan of for her and where they want her to go. And you've got a Cobra here, and she's very much taking the snake into inspiration against a tiger, which I thought was quite apt. Now let's talk about Kobra Moon. Kobra Moon, clearly she's got some talent. There was some interesting Hurricane Ranas here in the match. She could take a hit or two. That was shown here. I haven't seen enough yet to get like a full consensus of potential or how good of an overall wrestler this woman is, but she's definitely capable. From this match, we can definitely see that. I thought this match was okay. Overall, I thought it was the weakest of the show. It was an enhancement match in pretty much every facet of how you can think that is the case. I mean, Bengala got some offense in, but clearly it was Kobra Moon that they were trying to cast the spotlight on here and really get their thoughts over on this is the person that they were trying to get over more than Bengala. Even though Bengala's mask, by the way, is fantastic. You have to have a look at it. It's awesome. So yeah, the match it's not too long. It's not too great either. I thought it was alright. Nothing bad. But Cobra ends up winning with a Dragon Sleeper. I think they're going to give her her own name, like the, something snake inspired. But the way that Bengala sold this, because initially, I mean, Cobra is smaller than Bengala, so he's managed to stand up, but he's slowly fading. I really like the way that Bengala sold this. He's dropping to a knee. He made it look like he was fading, that he was trying to get to the ropes, but the hold had already done the damage by the time that he get to the ropes, and therefore it was done. I thought that's quite good. I like it when sleeper holds of that ilk are sold that way, that you're kind of losing your chance with every passing second that this hold is applied of being able to get to the ropes and be able to cause the break. But this obviously event, he ends up falling backwards, and then the grapevine, it's cinched in at that point. There's no getting out of it, and Kobra Moon walks away with the victory, and obviously a debut victory for her. So interesting to see where she's going to be going. At the moment, they're just trying to educate us who she is and what she's about and what you could expect to see her when she wrestles. I'm interested. This was a good enough debut. Um, I mean, it wasn't a dud. This is okay, and I'm interested to see where they're going to go and where Cobra is going to be put forward, what her storyline overall is going to be once we've got past the initial education about what her character is and stuff like that. So this moves into Fenix. He is speaking to Christina backstage, and he wants King Cuerno. He's lost his Gift of the Gods championship to Cuerno, and he says afterwards that he wants Mill and then Katrina too. That's basically it. This is probably one of the most pointless backstage segments in Lucha Underground recently that's happened. Probably the most pointless since it started. It's okay, we kind of guessed that Fenix would be going after them, right? And that's the case. I know they're building up to a match, and that's fair enough. And maybe they need this, for Katrina to go forward. But it just seemed like a little bit like Lucha Underground is a show with very little wasted time, and this seemed like a very small segment that I could have done without. It really wasn't that beneficial. And then we're shown a tribal child drawing pictures in the earth. That child is talking about a man from the stars. And of course they're talking about Aerostar, who is yet to show up in this season of Lucha Underground. But he shows up here, and he's speaking to someone about the 7 tribes and how they must unite against a common threat. Now, what that common threat is, whether they're talking about Dario Cueto, whether or not they're talking about, the fact that Black Lotus... Remember, Dario Cueto said at the end of last season that Black Lotus doing what she did started up a big war. And this is maybe what they're talking about here. Maybe a gang/tribe warfare mentality. Maybe something that they look to go towards. But Aerostar, anyway, looks like he's associated with these guys at very least. And he flies off, goes to the stars... And he is Lucha Underground's resident Iron Man. He's even got the little reticule in the middle of his chest where Iron Man has his. It's quite. I don't know whether they were going for that, but that certainly seems, an inspiration for it at very least. But yeah, I'm sure Aerostar will pop up soon. He's has great respect for Drago, who was on this show, so that was something maybe they might play up as time goes on. But they keep making a lot of references to people having to band together for a threat, or this tribe gang warfare sort of thing. So it may be down the line that we might be having instead of championships and head honchos being something that they go towards, maybe these groups coming in and trying to vie or revenge or anything along those lines. That may be something that they might be looking to do in the future, which is fine. I like the fact that Lucha Underground has a lot of different avenues that they can go down. So much so that they can kind of switch in their storylines when they want to, and they're all equally sort of given as much love and care and attention. So that's something I think they're slowly building to this. Rey Mysterio's appearance last week kind of teased at this whole thing that they're bringing in a group to, and there's a lot of different sects at the moment. You've got Dario Cueto's group, you've got Katrina with her group, you've got Rey Mysterio with his guys maybe coming in, and you've got Aerostar maybe with his tribe and stuff. So maybe something like that. And you've got Blue Demon Jr. and Chavo grouped up together. So stuff like that. We don't know. A lot of these people still haven't shown up yet, so we still have plenty of time. The way they shot this, by the way, like their outfits and stuff like that. I mean, one of the things about Lucha Underground as a whole, their outfits and masks and everything are just phenomenal. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that as we go on, because there's one guy that's just a cut above when it comes to that sort of gear. So Katrina then is speaking to King Cuerno backstage, who in this segment is looking jacked as fuck. He looked like he looked impressive, shall we say? Just he's working out, right? And she's pissed that while Cuerno beat Fenix for the Gift of the Gods Championship, King Cuerno didn't destroy him, and now Fenix is becoming a thorn in her side again. And Catrina sort of gives the subtle threat here of, well, if you don't deal with him, maybe Mil Muertes might have to deal with you. And Muertes, by the way, is still taped up and over his arm being broken. And she tells him, you know what, I'll give you another chance, a non-title match against Fenix in a last luchador standing match for the main event this week. And I get the feeling that Fenix is probably going to be a pest for Catrina this season. That she's going to be constantly trying to put this guy down, but he just won't say die, and this is going to be one of those things going forward. In fact, they seem to be building up Fenix as, even though he lost that first match, maybe they wanted to get the championship off him because ultimately their plans are for him to wrestle for the world championship down the line. But we'll see what happens when we get to that point. So this leads to the second match of the night. Jack Evans versus Drago. And we're seeing the first appearances of two guys that I do like quite a lot. Evans did some absolutely crazy shit last season. And Dragon is a fucking dragon. So what's not to like, right? He's a dragon. So that's awesome. And without question, going back to the whole thing about Lucha Underground just having the best gear and all that sort of stuff. Drago has the best designs in pro wrestling. His masks and his gear, even his entrance stuff when he comes down with the wings, it's pristine. I can't even begin to explain to you the intricacies in his mask alone. It's awesome stuff. Go and look up a picture. It's great. But one thing I liked in this was at the very beginning, you've got a sort of an aerial style chess match that they seem to be telling. The story of the match, if you will. Drago doesn't look like one of those guys who initially, you look at Jack Evans and he's quite ripped, Drago isn't anything particularly imposing, but he's got a good aerial moveset of his own, which he can use. One thing I did like about this match, and this match, by the way, was much better than the first one. I thought this match gave us a lot more. But there's a part in here where Drago's going in for maybe a hold or a move, and Evans ends up biting his thumb. And the response from the commentary I thought was great. It sets the tone. I love the tone of Lucha Underground. And the commentary completely backed this up. Where they're like, Vampiro's like, well, why is that a problem? It's a fight. You've got to do dirty things to win fights. I'd be almost disgusted with him if he wasn't doing that. And Striker's like, oh, fair enough, sort of thing. And it's less of a wrestling match these days. They're more fights, and this is the way that Lucha Underground treats it. Yes, I thought this was a great match. I thought the ending exchange here was a lot of fun. There's a lot of reversals. The reversal ultimately is what gives the win. Evans rolls over in a backslide sort of pinfall, and in doing so he puts his foot on the ropes to give himself a little bit of leverage. I guess that's what they're going for here, and that gives him the victory, and he pins Drago. And before even Drago has a chance of getting angry or just getting pissed off at losing, Evans has already got a mic in his hand. He's already outside. The speed at which he does this, he's just like, he races towards it. And he announces himself as the winner, but he also wants to be called the Dragon Slayer, which I thought was quite... He's getting lots of heat, by the way, when he's saying this sort of stuff. He's getting a lot of heat from the crowd. So I thought this was good. Jack Evans, I thought was one of those guys that, if you're going to give people some added time over the course of this year, Evans, I thought, showed a lot in the last season. And Drago is one of those guys where I look at him and he's well over with the crowd. People, the crowd love him. And I think he's been sort of penned into that sort of mid-card babyface role where he's going to rival with a lot of these guys, which is okay. I don't have a problem with that. I think he does fine in that role, and Drago's one of those guys that I'm sure that with Lucha Underground they're going to give him something interesting to do over the course of this year. He had a story of redemption and everything last year, so we'll see what happens with him this year. Maybe, and And like I said, even more interested to see where Jack Evans goes after this, because this is a big win for him. This is a singles victory over Drago. That is a big win for Jack Evans. So good stuff there. We're shown Tejano, the Mexican ass kicker, as he's told. They show some clips of him in AAA, as he's talking about there. And they give him his video package here, which is, he's in a bar, and he's fighting some unnamed luchadors who seem to want to fight him. And I like the way that with Lucha Underground, they're not just giving their new characters video packages. I think they understand that with Season 2, they've got some people coming in that the crowd don't know. And therefore, they've, what I'm saying, the crowd, they've got new watchers, so they have to educate people even some of the people that were in Season 1. That's what they have to do. But they could very easily just kind of put them to a side and be like, well, no, they've already got all the limelight and the stuff from Season 1, so why do we need to do it again? Like I said, I'm glad that Lucha Underground understands that they're going to be getting new fans every single week. And with that, you've got new fans. It's, especially the way Lucha Underground is hard to find anyway, it's going to be hard for them to find a decent overview of what each guy has done. And I know there's fan videos out there, but in general, so that's fine. Like I said, he beats up a couple of people in this bar, and there's a barmaid who just has the expression of this just happens far too much in my drinking establishment. It's just like every time I try and run a decent bar here, I just get luchadors slamming bottles and tables over each other, and so poor barmaid there. She she had a look on her face just like, and again, I've got to start banning you, because otherwise, random guys with masks show up and this sort of shit happens. So I thought that was quite funny anyway. Prince Puma is staring into a mirror. Katrina asks, who does he pray to? And this is kind of building up to Conan. And she's telling him Conan's last words from the casket that he was dragged out in. And she says that his last words were, forgive me. And she starts prodding at him, going, I wonder if she's saying forgive me for failing you, Prince Puma, or something along those lines. She's really getting under his skin. And that's one thing that Katrina knows how to do, is to take care of Mil Muertes, take care of her Disciples of Death, run the show from now on, and obviously from this point on to just get under people's skin. Like, she really does that. She's a head fuck ninja. That's exactly what she is. But she wonders if Prince Puma then will give his own sacrifice in the form of Pentagon Jr. next week. So we're getting that match next week. They had been building to that. I mean, Pentagon Jr. had said he's coming after Puma anyway. And I wonder if they're going to tell a story of Puma maybe losing his way. I mean, he's always been the honourable guy, right? He's always been the guy that's done things the right way. He's been the baby face poster boy of the company so far, right? I wonder if they're going to tell a story of him losing his way and, through revenge, losing his path and something along those lines. Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe they're just trying to build this up as a very big match, and that's just the way they want to go around doing that. So this leads to the main event then. Fenix versus King Cuerno in a last luchador standing match. This match was a lot of fun. Easily the best match. I thought last week's main event didn't really do much. I wasn't that interested that much in it. But the one thing I would say about this week is that initially I thought that this was going to be a problem with the last luchador standing, because Lucha Underground matches by nature are very fast paced, action first, very go, spot to spot sort of thing. With the last luchador standing match, you've got the talent standing and waiting for each other to be down for the 10 count, which is going to, by nature and just by how the match is designed, it's going to slow down the match. But I didn't think it took away from it too much, at the end of the day, maybe it's just me and being almost too stereotypical with the company saying, oh, well, I expected it to be fast. Lucha Underground's more than capable of telling a story maybe when the pace of the match doesn't exactly fit that. And that's sort of how I feel, that they could do here, which is fine. And this match was great, so it was okay. They end up spilling into the crowd. You've got King Cuerno, who doesn't even really tell the crowd to move. He just Irish whips Fenix into the chairs, and as he's doing so, you've still got people getting up and out of their chairs out of the way, and that's kind of like builds to the feel of the show, where it is like this dark, dank place where, you know, the crowd aren't always safe. You know what I mean? Like for instance, they had the Hernandez match at Ultima Lucha last year where he got whipped to the fuck. And, you know, it's that sort of place where you wouldn't have thought of Hernandez, you know, attacking one of them would have been too out of place. So that's the case of it there. So Fenix here, I think he's probably got one of the most beautiful corkscrew planchas over the top rope to the outside than I've ever seen. He does about 2 of them here, maybe in different positions around the ring. But they're both absolutely pristine. They're beautiful. They really are. He is a extremely talented wrestler in that regard. When it comes to the high flying aspect of his game, Fenix, you know, he's very what's the word? You know, he's very. I just want to say pristine, but he's just very. Like, his moves come across as bombastic as they are. They're always in control. You know, he's got he's just very skilled in that sense. Very crisp. That's the word I was looking for. Very crisp. Now, so he's doing a couple of those, but Cuerno decides, you know what, I'll get a ladder and I'll lay you out that way. And it ends up being a point where Cuerno set up this ladder, and they've got a table set up. But the way he's got this ladder set up isn't the conventional way. He hasn't opened up the 2 sides and then, you know, done it as usual. What he's done is he's kept it flat, but then he's laid it against, I think, is Katrina's office at this point. So what he's doing there is that, I don't know what what his idea was, but as himself and Fenix are going up, Fenix goes up first, and he's managing then to get his body over the, body on top of the office, and he's managed to kick off the ladder. And Cuerno then falls backwards and he just crashes. The visual, guys, of him crashing through this table, it was mental. It was an awesome visual. And then at that point, you know that that's going to be the end of the match. But it was a mental finish. It was, like I said, if you haven't seen it, it's worth watching just for that, because just the visual of this guy, just from the top of it, just the ladder falling backwards and him knowing that he's about to get fucked. Like, there's no way that this is not going to end without him getting hurt, and it was a decent end to it. Even you got Matt Striker dropping the oh shit bomb, shall we say, and it was very warranted because it did look absolutely grisly. It looked devastating. And all the time, by the way, that Fenix is obviously, when he's doing well in the match and when he wins the match, Mil Muertes is enraged. He is not happy at all for King Cuerno to be beaten, or not so much for King Cuerno to be beaten, but Fenix. The fact that he's managing to survive and to win, despite, you know, imagine Katrina, you know, telling him, well, I've sent this guy after him, so he won't be that fact. So clearly Mil Muertes and Fenix, that's a long-standing rivalry in Lucha Underground, and I'd be very shocked if they wouldn't have a match this season. I think it's happening. I just think that this is a way... This is the way that they've designed it, so they can give the championship to Cuerno and move Fenix into the rivalry with Mil Muertes without being the champion, which is fine. That's okay. I've got no problem with that. And to be honest, it's been booked well if that is the case. So, but still, at the end of the show, we're shown 2 police officers. One of them is a woman, Captain Vasquez, speaking to an officer. I didn't quite catch his name, so if anyone could fill me in that. It was said only once, and I couldn't quite catch it. But she asks about Katrina. So she doesn't ask about that, but the officer is talking about Katrina, Chavo Guerrero, and the crew. But this information really isn't what Vasquez is interested in. She wants information on Dario Cueto instead, which is quite apt considering the fact that the only time we've seen Dario Cueto in this season, which was on the first episode, we haven't seen a lot of him actually, which is a bit of a shame. But the only time that we've seen him, 3 people were murdered in that scene. So how many other people he's lured into this fake dungeon, fake temple that he's created? and then fed to his brother. We don't know, so it's maybe he's the one that's most wanted here. But then someone comes in, and you may recognize him, the man with the iron penis. It is Joey Ryan. Shows up, and he's playing a cop as well. So he's going to be this officer's new partner, and they're going to be going undercover in Lucha Underground, and they may even be wrestling each other. That's what they said. Whether you like each other or hate each other, I don't care. We need to find out where Dario Cueto is and what's going on there. And so it looks like there's an investigation being filed into lots of people going on in the show, and it makes a lot of sense considering a lot of people ended up dead in season 1, and there's a lot of people that's ended up dead already in season 2. So it would make sense that the police are, showing somewhat of an interest in the show as a whole. So all in all, I thought this was another decent episode. I thought it was better than last week, personally. Well worth a watch. I think some people might get put off because they might watch the opening match and think, it's not as good. The opening match is probably the weakest part of the show, in my opinion. But they had 2 great matches, which included what I thought was a very fun main event. And they're certainly building up Fenix as going to be one of these guys that's going to have a very prominent role in Lucha Underground this season. And if you're going to ask me which match to watch, it would be the main event. I thought the main event was the best match of the night. Maybe because of that finish. That finish was probably the tipping point. I thought that was quite the visual, just seeing this guy just topple over onto this chair, and it that got quite the response, as you can imagine. So yeah, definitely recommend it. Go and watch Lucha Underground episode 3. Good stuff. I haven't seen an episode so far that I haven't liked. I thought maybe episode 2 was probably the weakest so far, but this is a stellar entry, and I'm hoping next week we get a little bit more Dario Cueto. Like I said, hopefully here they're kind of putting in some stuff here, but we haven't seen a lot of Dario Cueto, and he's one of the guys that I just loved in season 1. But there's still some guys here like Aerostar. He was in a not backstage, but he had his own video segment. There's a lot of guys like him that haven't even been featured yet. They talked about Chavo Guerrero and Blue Demon Jr. They haven't been referenced at all. So whether I'm pretty sure they're going to go back and at least touch on some of these things, but we'll see how it goes from there. Well, apart from that, I hope you liked the review. There's a thumbs up here from us. And if you did like the review, why not subscribe to the channel? That way you can be one of what we're hoping 1,000 subscribers at the end of the year. We're close to 600 as it is, so that's cool. And we do weekly Lucha Underground reviews, and we do the main show every single weekend, where we talk about the wrestling news of the week. We review Monday Night Raw, amongst a whole bunch of other things. We also answer our fan questions there on that show, so if you want to leave any fan questions below here, it more than likely will be answered on that show. However, if you do want a Lucha Underground specific question, I will answer one each week. So if you want one to be put on there, I'll start doing them as of from now, because I don't want these episodes to go too long. But apart from that, we hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you catch us again next week. Like I said, you can like us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast, and our Twitter handle, which is @TalkWrestlePod as well. Apart from that, have a great week, and we'll see you next week for more Lucha Underground. Have a great time. Thanks a lot now.